One of the hardest pills to swallow for me as a woman has been accepting that it really is all men. It's all of them. Even if it's not to an insane extent, like actively being violent towards women and things like that, to some degree, they participate in misogyny. To some degree, they are passive about it. Like, I have men in my life that I think highly of, but even with them, I know that to some degree they're okay with misogyny and they're okay with participating in it and the things that come with it. So, yeah, every once in a while, I'm like, I kind of don't want to talk to any of you guys ever again. It will always blow my mind that even though Chris Brown has a decades long history of being violent and abusive and harassing women and doing all these things, he will always have a grip on people because he can do a fucking backflip. The bar is in hell. It's in hell because you will have older women going out of their way, jumping through hoops, talking about their stepdad that laid pavement but hit their mom and act like they're just the greatest thing since sliced bread. We need to study that. Misandry only creates more misogyny. Misandry only creates more misogyny. No, the fuck it doesn't. No, the fuck it doesn't. No, the fuck it doesn't. And saying that it does only makes more of an excuse for these people. If they didn't want to be misogynistic, they just wouldn't be misogynistic. They don't need a fucking reason. Me saying something online, me, one woman saying something online should not be able to change that. It should not be able to. If you're not misogynistic, you're not going to be misogynistic just because there's a woman that you don't fucking like. That's just not how it works. Y'all love coddling these men and making fucking excuses for them. They don't need a fucking reason. You guys piss me off. If that's all it took for them to become misogynistic, which I highly fucking doubt it. I highly doubt there's just like a switch in their fucking brain. Like, wait, I respect women and view them as people, but this woman said something, so now I no longer feel that way. That's bullshit. That is absolute fucking bullshit. And you guys love making excuses for them and you love shoving their dicks to the back of your fucking throat instead of accepting the fact that a lot of them just aren't good people. I'm sick of y'all. I'm sick of y'all. I'm sick of y'all. Being nice and saying that feminism is for everyone, saying that we want equality for all did not help. So me being mean is also probably not going to help, but they're going to be misogynistic anyway. So I might as well just say what the fuck I want to say and do what the fuck I want to do. It's not my job to be nice to them so that they don't take it out on a bunch of other women. It's not my job. They should just not want to. So I wanted to talk to you guys about bioessentialism because I get a lot about that in my comments. And I think that people just learn words and they don't think about what they mean. Bioessentialism is the idea that we are born with immutable traits based on our gender or sex. When I say that men are inherently misogynistic, I do not mean that they are born misogynistic. I mean that society, the entire foundation of our society, is built on misogyny. There is no divorcing the world from that. And the belief that you can is a huge misunderstanding of what misogyny is and how deep it goes. To put it simply, if the most devoted feminists of our entire lifetime have internalized misogynistic ordeals, then what do you think has happened with men? It is so normalized to the point that people will say things and they don't realize that it's misogynistic. Like the whole who wears the pants thing, it has misogynistic roots because women used to not be allowed to wear pants. You act like a bitch, misogynistic. It's even in more like positive things, like referring to women as bad bitches. There is no positive way to call someone a female dog. There's no positive way to say that. And of course, we have been taught as women to take this as normal. So of course, you're going to think it's not that deep. It's not that deep until misogyny has been able to allow us to have to fight for rights that we should have had to begin with. It's not that deep until there are femicides going on all over the world. It's not that deep until literally every single woman is going to experience something at the hands of misogyny, whether it is sexual harassment or intimate partner violence or discrimination based on that. There are so many different examples. And because our society has normalized it and it is the most normalized form of oppression, of course, they are going to internalize some part of it. Of course, they are going to be passive about it in the media that they consume. They're going to be like, oh, it's not that deep, or it's just how the world is. So it is not bioessentialist to say that all men are misogynistic to some degree, not because they were born that way, but because society breeds them to be that way. They are taught to ignore our issues to some extent. They are taught that what we think does not matter to some extent. Because to them, we are bitches that need to shut up and be quiet and take whatever the world hands to us. We can all agree that we live under a patriarchy, but we can't agree that somebody has internalized the side effects of that, which is misogyny. I myself can admit that I have internalized some misogyny. So what makes you think that a man a man on this fucking earth hasn't internalized it and doesn't continue to benefit from it and ignore certain things that he sees in society because it doesn't affect him. Everyone can jump and scream and cry when someone says something bad about a man, but let someone say something about a woman and all of a sudden it's not that deep. Just accept being called a bitch. Just accept subpar treatment and being treated like a second-class citizen at every turn. Just accept it. But the second that it's men, there are think pieces and everyone needs to heal. And that in and of itself just tells you we live in a misogynistic society. Every single person is affected by it. Every single person has internalized it to some degree. And that's just the truth. It has nothing to do with biology. It has to do with the way that society is set up. This whole concept of a gender war is very mythical. Like, it does not exist. I cannot stand when someone is in the position of an oppressor and they decide that the people that are being oppressed fighting back and calling them out on their shit are also oppressing them. Like, that's not how that works. And if this war did exist, the end result is women getting killed and men getting their feelings hurt or getting a little annoyed. A lot of people describe to this sort of all lives matter rhetoric when it comes to gender-based violence, gender-based experiences, and it's very unproductive and annoying. There's also this rhetoric going around that both genders are just as bad as each other, and that is very much an all lives matter approach. Like, it doesn't really encompass what women actually go through. Yes, things happen to men. Yes, women do bad things too, but it is not on the same scale. And that's not to say that it's not important, but let's get consequences happening for the majority that it happens to, and then we can focus on the outliers. And the truth of the matter is, women, no single woman will ever be able to hate men the way that men hate us, and how we have been able to see that for centuries and centuries and centuries. Our hatred or dislike or contentment, whatever, will never have the power to systematically or socially oppress men the way that they have been able to oppress us for years. And I also would compare this like diminishing mentality to when white people say, oh, we can experience police brutality too when something happens to a Black person. Like, yes, we know that. But this talking point is only brought up to downplay the experience of the majority. And also, when it comes to women and men, this rhetoric implies that things actually happen and consequences are actually had for the majority of men that are committing these crimes, and that's just not true. If you meet a woman that has been sexually assaulted, sexually abused, any of those things by a man, I guarantee you if she pursued justice, she did not get it. It is very, very rare for that to happen. And even when they are convicted, you guys still make excuses for them anyway. And they get to get on stage and cry and say that they have persevered through so much and they were a victim of the legal system when they did that shit. And if we do want to completely ignore statistics, just look at how fathers react when their daughters go on dates versus when their sons go on dates. Because they fucking know. They fucking know how men are and can be. And look at the emphasis that men put on being protectors. But who are you protecting us from? Oh. And we know it's not all men. Some of you are one of the good ones. But for one, you are not one of the good ones if you choose to ignore what women actually go through in this country and in this world. You're not one of the good ones if you're not fighting against that oppression with us. You are not one of the good ones if you deny our experiences because it makes you feel insecure. And also, it is not all men, but it is way too fucking many of them. There has been a war against women for centuries with real world consequences. There has been a gender war against women for a long, long time. So don't ever compare that to what you guys have to see on social media. As a man, it is important for you to acknowledge that though you don't want to be misogynistic, you are born into a world that is built on misogyny. Every single corner of the world is touched by misogyny, so you are not exempt. No matter how amazing and golden retriever you think you are, you play some role in it in some capacity. And everyone does. Everyone is touched by it. So if you think you're just this miracle man, you're not, because even women have internalized misogyny. And only women can have internalized misogyny in that sense, but men internalize it in the sense of like they hear it and they learn from it, and that becomes a part of their belief system, not in the same way that women internalize hatred about themselves. But yeah, you guys don't lose your lives over it. You don't lose your rights over this. You lose nothing but the comfortability of being ignorant to the harm caused by you and your fellow men in everyday life. Stop being irrational and emotional about it, and either help us fight this or continue to do fuck all like you guys usually do. Some women are truly tired of being expected to be kind and agreeable and laugh at our own degradation and dehumanization as our rights get stripped away every other day. And as we continue to live in a world that does not value us unless we are giving something back to them. And it is not our jobs to make people feel good about themselves as we call out those issues. Women are sick and tired of holding your hands while you oppress us. That gets us nowhere. Prioritizing men's feelings does not stop us from getting harassed, stalked, abused, degraded, and murdered. It's time to try something else. The biggest example of women not understanding how much men hate us is them assuming that a man must be gay because of how he speaks about women. Yes, there are men that have internalized homophobia and they take that out on women, but that is not the case with the majority of men. They really do just hate us that much. And because misogyny is such a normalized form of oppression, we can't even point it out ourselves because it is so deeply ingrained in society. And it takes a lot of mental work and heartbreak to really acknowledge all the different ways that it has intersected and infiltrated our lives. A lot of people have a very surface level understanding of what misogyny is. So when it's in front of their face, a lot of the times they can't even recognize it because we've been taught to accept a certain level of it. Like there are acceptable levels of misogyny. Even with the most feminist men, there is a level of misogyny that they're willing to tolerate or accept. So that's why people are like, oh, he must be gay because of how he treats women. No, they really do just hate us that much. And it is a true coping mechanism that all women must adopt, because if we really thought about all the different ways that they show that they hate us and don't respect us, then you would be heartbroken and very angry a lot of the time. Because of the way our society was built, we have no way of escaping that with any of the men that we love. Literally all of the men that we care about contribute to women's exploitation or benefit from it, and they allow a certain level of disrespect of us to some degree. Whether it's in the media that they consume and support, whether it's with their friends, whether it's with their favorite, whatever, they are able to tolerate a certain of disrespect towards us. And it's all misogyny. There are levels to it, but when it comes down to it, it's all misogyny, and it is all rooted in the belief that we are less valuable than them. And once you come to terms with that, it is very hard to navigate the world. So it's a lot easier to pretend that certain things are not that deep and aren't rooted in misogyny, but once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. But if you pay close enough attention and stop dismissing your own feelings, you will see it in every man you've ever spoken to, especially the ones that you're close to. So yeah, they're not gay. They just don't respect women. Yeah, but I guarantee you these women are not dating one of those men. I guarantee you. Because the amount of men that actually do that in earnest are probably less than 1% of the male population, because a lot does not add up. Because in order for them to do that, they would have to take a look at the benefits that they have under the patriarchy and do their best to use that to help other people in ways that doesn't benefit them, and men are not good at that, which is why feminists have to say feminism is for everyone, because they can't fathom fighting for something that doesn't give them something in the end. I don't know what you meant by this, honestly, because gay men, because they don't want to sleep with women and they don't have to pretend like they don't hate them in the ways that straight men or bisexual men do, they are actually very open with their misogyny. They even will think that they can hit women because they're gay, or they think that they can call us bitches and talk about us in really disgusting ways because they aren't attracted to us, and because they think that they are divorced from their manhood and their privilege as men because they're gay, which just isn't true. They are still men. They are still men. They are just men that do not have to pretend like they don't hate women for a second because they want to get laid, but they're still men. I really lack comprehension skills. Many women shared in the comments that they have experiences with gay men being misogynistic. Misogyny is misogyny. I don't care if you're gay, bisexual, straight, whatever. Some gay men are misogynistic in different ways than straight men because they don't date women, but they're still misogynistic all the same. Does that mean every single gay man that's ever existed, or does it mean the ones that it applies to? Use critical thinking skills. I know that some of you do respect women. However, in a lot of people's experiences, including my own, because you guys are gay, you think that you can get away with saying things that straight men are not supposed to get away with saying. You calling us a bitch is not different than a straight man calling us a bitch. It is still misogynistic. You referring to our body parts as disgusting things is still misogynistic. I'm not saying you, because I know you lack critical thinking skills. I'm saying gay men that it applies to. Us talking about that and how people have this idea that gay men cannot be misogynistic It's not true, and that is what we are speaking on. That should not feel like an attack on you if it does not apply to you. And no, you guys are not misogynistic in the way that straight men are because you don't date women, but you are similar to them in the way that you speak over women. And your gayness does not negate the fact that you are a man and you still treat women as subhuman in some capacity. Because we can't speak about our experiences without you guys being, oh, wait, I'm not like that. I'm not like that. We fucking know. Some women have experienced being sexually assaulted by gay men because they thought they could touch them in certain ways because they're gay, and it doesn't mean to them what it means to a straight man. We should be able to have those conversations without you guys crying about it. You are not an ally and a respecter of women if you can't let us talk about our experiences without your ego and your feelings getting in the way. If you are so different from straight men, then actually listen to us for once instead of trying to tone police how we talk about our experiences or try to tell us that we're wrong for talking about them at all. Some of you are so used to women holding your hand while you oppress us and disrespect us and are misogynistic to us and speak over our experiences, but I am not that woman. I am not about to do that. I don't give a shit about respectability politics. I don't give a shit about being nice. That shit is fake. It's not me. I'm not doing it. I'm going to be clear and concise, and if you don't like my choice of words, go cry to somebody who gives a shit, because I don't. I care about getting my point across. I don't give a shit about how you perceive it. I don't give a shit about whether you like the wording or not. I don't give a shit. It's not a woman's job to hold your hand and make it sound nice when we talk about years and years and years of frustration from misogyny. It is not our job to do that. As the person in the position of the oppressor, you policing our tone, you policing anything is ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. And I quite frankly am not going to stand for it or apologize for the way that I deliver my frustration about misogyny. That is never going to happen. If you want a woman to hold your hand and make you feel good about yourself while you are misogynistic and don't respect our experiences, you can find that literally anywhere else in the world, but you will not find it here. Us trying to be gentle about our frustration with misogyny has gotten us absolutely nowhere, but in positions where you guys continue to disrespect us and continue to get away with treating us like subhuman. I'm not doing that shit. I'll be the angry black woman. I'll be the bitter one. I'll be any of that. I do not give a fuck. Your feelings and the feelings of other men do not matter more than the experiences that we go through and our right to talk about them. Shout out to the writers of the show, The Boys, because they fully acknowledge the fact that Johnny Depp is a rapist and an abuser. If you don't know what I'm talking about, they had a character that is a rapist say something similar to what Johnny Depp said about Amber pooping on the bed. And they also, I think last season, they had someone say something along the lines of like pulling a Johnny Depp, which is just like framing an innocent person, or flipping the script on an innocent person and making it seem like they were the one at fault when it was you. But yeah, I think it's a good show. I will never watch it because there's a lot of men in it, but I can respect the fact that they're standing with Amber Heard and they're not going along with what other people go along with. Unfortunately, no amount of people changing their minds or seeing what really went on with Amber and that man, that will not change the outcome and all the trauma that was placed upon Amber through everything that happened with the trial. But having people side with her, and especially on a massive platform like a TV show that a lot of people watch, is a really good step in the right direction. And I really can appreciate that. Johnny Depp is a liar, a rapist, and an abuser. And the more people that we can get to speak on that and not make him feel comfortable in his victory of convincing the entire world, except for the smart people, except for the people that understand how abuse works, that he was a victim when he is nothing of the sort. He doesn't deserve to have a peaceful life after that. And I cross my fingers, cross my toes. I cross every single hair on my head waiting for him to get what's coming to him, because he does not deserve to have peace after what he did. And neither do the people that laughed at her rape testimony or any of her testimony and participated in trends about it and made disgusting comments for no fucking reason, without even knowing the facts or even looking into previous cases and things that were proven and stuff like that. So yeah, I will always have smoke for all of you. And I know that you're going to end up getting your karma one day, and I will be there front row celebrating, but especially when Johnny meets his demise, because no one's going to stop me from baking like several cakes. But that nuance is not the internet's like strong suit at all, but we can acknowledge two things at the same time. I can acknowledge that a Zionist should not be employed, while also acknowledging the fact that even though they do not have the most good people on the show. I don't know anything about the cast other than what has just been said in this comment, because again, I don't watch the show. But I can acknowledge that while also saying that even though that is the case, it is good that this show that has a massive platform is siding with Amber in ways that other companies and people did not do. I can acknowledge that integrity in that way, and only in that way. Do I believe that this person needs to be unemployed ASAP? Absolutely. But two things can be true at the same time. I don't care how long it takes. I will continue to prey on the downfall of everybody that ever made fun of Amber Heard, everybody that participated in the harassment, the victim blaming, the laughing about her rape testimony, all of that shit. I am continuing to prey on your downfall. I need a front row fucking seat every time it happens, because it will happen. Like, was I supposed to feel bad when Raven-Symoné's wife was like getting death threats and had all this stuff coming into her inbox? No, because now you know a little percentage of how Amber felt during that time. Yeah. And I don't care if it was 2 years ago. I check in with every person that I can remember was making fun of her, and I try to see where their life is at. And if it's terrible, I'm laughing. If it's good, I'm like, when is it gonna be bad? Because you don't deserve anything good if you were making fun of her. Every fucking person, huge celebrity, small celebrity, big influencer, small influencer, content creators, everybody, your regular everyday person with 0 followers, if you were making fun of her, I am praying on your downfall. I am praying for it. I'm doing rituals. I am doing those manifestation sounds. Every time I see one on my For You page, I am praying for you to fail. I don't care. I don't care if it's 10 years from now. I am praying for it. So if you suddenly feel that your life is going to shit, that's me. That's me, because y'all are disgusting. Here's something that I want to make abundantly clear. At least for me personally, I do not believe that reactive abuse is a thing. I don't believe there's anything such as like mutual abuse. I think that one person takes the relationship from being a normal relationship to being an abusive relationship, and the person that does that is the abuser. I don't believe that if you respond to abuse in return that behavior, that you were also an abuser. I think that you are defending yourself. I think you are responding to the environment that has been created, but I don't believe that you are on the same level as the person that changed the power dynamics of the relationship. But that's just my opinion, and so I don't think it's fair to be like, oh, they were just both terrible, they were just both abusive, they were just... No, I think one person, Johnny, was an abuser, is an abuser, and that's just what it was. I don't believe in mutual abuse, reactive abuse, none of that bullshit that people try to come up with. No, I think that's a way of excusing really disgusting, terrible behavior. I think that's a way of absolving him of a lot, and I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it at all. I am not going to give him any sort of pass. There was a very obvious power imbalance, and yeah, that's just what it was. You're so close to the point it would like slap you in the face if it could. But this is about survivors in general. It's not about celebrities. It was never about celebrities. And the fact that you think that it is very, very telling. This is a legal case that set a precedent that will affect survivors for years and years and years to come. The fact that you can't understand that means that we have nothing to talk about, and anyone else that doesn't understand that is very dense, because it's not about celebrities. It's not about me support. I couldn't care less about Amber Heard's career or any of that stuff. I couldn't care less about like her movies, her work, or any of that. I am speaking about it as someone that cares about survivors in general and cares about what that case has done and the trauma and everything else that it has caused. That is what I care about, not about their movies or whatever they do with their careers or any of that stuff. I also agree that celebrity worship and caring about celebrities and what they do is not important, but when it affects real people, normal people, then I think we all should care. Yeah, I stopped being friends with a lot of people because I realized I couldn't feel safe with them, and I can never be vulnerable with them about things that I've experienced. So yeah, it was a very heartbreaking time, and that's why I feel so passionately about it, because it affected so many survivors, and it's just not fair. I feel as though it's hard for me to have compassion for people that fell for it, because the idea of just seeing it become a trend to be disgusting towards someone about something like that, and then just going along with it and having a hive mindset and not even looking into it yourself, is really, really disgusting. But also I know that misogyny and victim blaming and everything is very prevalent in society, so I can understand why people went along with it. But it's complicated, but also it's hard for me to have compassion, because it's like so many people suffered, and not just Amber. Like, so many survivors had to see that. So many people that will never tell their stories because of all the hatred that was spread online. Like, and the fact that so much of that hatred played such a key role in the outcome of the trial, because it really was like the court of public opinion. Like, it definitely fueled that. The jurors were seeing the TikToks and all that stuff. Like, it was a lot. So it's hard for me to have compassion for that. It's hard for me to give grace for that, because so much damage was done, and it's not just like this silly little thing like, oops, like, sorry I did that. Like, no, actual lives were affected and will continue to be affected because people refused to do their own research and just went along with what was trendy and what was popular and thought it was so funny, so fucking funny. The fact that it was literally a TikTok sound with like thousands and thousands of videos, the fact that celebrities like Jennifer Aniston, and my mind just went blank, but so many influential people used that time to ridicule her, and in turn ridicule so many people that were not perfect victims. It just makes me have the worst, like, I don't know, the worst hatred for everyone involved. Yeah, there's a lot of evidence that he bought a ton of bots in order to spew anti-Amber rhetoric and praise him and stuff like that. And people don't think that's suspicious at all. And some of the people that support him tried to accuse Amber of doing the same, but that was proven wrong multiple times. People don't care. And I hope this month is worse, because I will never forget you mocking Amber Heard. Yeah, I need it to be worse. Let's double it, let's triple it, let's quadruple it. I'm honestly sick of everyone using this excuse or this explanation or whatever you want to call it, because we all had access to the same fucking information. The difference is some people decided to just go with what was popular, and other people decided to look at all of the information, the transcripts, the stuff from the UK, everything, and then made a decision based on that. You guys chose to participate in a hate campaign against this woman without even knowing the full information. A lot of the stuff that people saw after the trial, they had no idea about when they were making those videos, when they were making thirst traps to her rape testimony and all this other stuff. No matter what you believe, you guys are making fucking thirst traps to a rape testimony. A rape testimony. I don't care who it is. I don't care what the context is. Making a thirst trap to a rape testimony is fucking disgusting. You guys are disgusting. I do not care. And it's the fact that it's not just about Amber Heard. It's about every survivor that had to watch you guys do that. That had to watch you guys vilify her. That had to watch you guys laugh at her testimony and make memes about it, and have like SNL make skits about it. It's... You guys don't get it. You don't get it. It's not just about two celebrities. This is a precedent that has been set. So every trial after this is affected. Every trial where a victim was not perfect, where a victim hit someone back, this is now going to be used as a reference. Like, oh, maybe this is just another Amber Heard because you didn't sit there and take it. Like, you guys don't get it. You don't get it. I've had so many people message me and tell me their stories and comment and tell me their stories saying that people also were like this towards them because they weren't the perfect victim, because they did fight back. You guys only believe people and think that they are worthy of your support if they are a dead victim, and that shit is not right. Like, if Nicole Brown Simpson was still alive and she had fought back, you guys would be saying the same exact shit about her. Or maybe not, because there's race dynamics at play in that. But you guys are disgusting, and I'm sick of you making excuses. At least own up to the fact that you chose to side with him based on very limited information that you chose to have, because the internet is fucking free. We all had access to the same information. People would be like, oh, his team buried blah, blah, blah. If you wanted to find the information, you could have. Because people made master posts. There was Reddit posts. There were so many, people curated the information very, very perfectly. And you chose to ignore it because it was so much more fun to make fun of her stepping on a bee or shitting on a bed or whatever the fuck you want to talk about. You wanted to talk about the comedic value in a fucking domestic violence trial, which even if you sided with him, you're fucking disgusting for laughing at any of it. You're fucking disgusting. No matter how much you try to flip it and reverse it, you're fucking disgusting. And you guys make me sick. Like, it genuinely angers me because it's not just about them. It's about every survivor. It's about every
victim that was not perfect. And you guys don't get that. You can't get it through your thick fucking heads because you're online so much that you're desensitized to this shit. But it's real life. Real people's lives are affected by this every fucking day. And also, if you wear makeup, boycott Milani Cosmetics because they thought it was funny to insert themselves in a domestic violence case and make memes about it. Even if you did not believe Amber Heard, it is disgusting and inappropriate and unprofessional as a company to insert yourself and make little memes out of a domestic violence case. You guys will post about women's whatever month, but you don't support women and you don't support survivors. So, and you guys claim to be cruelty free, but there's something very not cruelty free about making jokes and shit about a domestic violence case. You guys are disgusting and you guys owe her an apology, but actually I would rather just see your company burn. They were not both bad. He was an abuser. She responded to his abuse. That's what fucking happened. If you guys got the fuck off TikTok and did your own research and formed your own opinions based on that, then you would know that. But no, instead you go along with whatever TikTok tells you instead of closing the app, reading something, and then coming to your own conclusion. That's exactly how the hate campaign against her was able to thrive, because you guys don't use critical thinking skills. Instead, you just go with whatever people tell you. If it has a bunch of likes, a bunch of comments, you're like, oh, that must be correct. Instead of actually going and listening and doing actual research on topics, you guys just go along with whatever people online tell you to do. Like, it's very, very sad. That's why I don't have any sort of patience or grace or understanding for people that were terrible towards her, or that decided to be neutral, or decided to like not, because the thing is, standing up for her is also standing up for other survivors that were not perfect. And you guys did nothing. You were either neutral or you talked shit or you said they were both bad. And no, actually, saying that they're both bad is not neutral. That's actually not neutral. That's actually blaming her for responding to his abuse. And that's bullshit.
You mean the case where the beloved Hollywood man was able to turn the entire world against the younger woman that he dated? You mean the trial in which the jurors were not sequestered, which means that they were exposed to everything that you were exposed to, all of the propaganda, all of the TikToks, all of the stuff that was within the smear campaign. They were exposed to the exact same stuff, so of course they were going to make a decision based on that. He had more money, so of course his legal team was going to be better. I could go on and on. There was a lot of things that went wrong in the representation of Amber, in how they handled the jurors, everything. It was all a very, very calculated smear campaign. And when you factor in misogyny, and then the power dynamics at play, of course he won the case. Of course. It is very easy to convince people to hate women. It's very, very, very easy. It was essentially a popularity contest, and Amber lost. Depp's lawyer has even called it that, so hey.
I've been thinking a lot about the Amber Heard trial lately, and just the standard that it set and the role that social media and particularly TikTok played in the trial, and the effect that it had on survivors and the effect that it will continue to have, because it wasn't this like pop culture moment. This is like real life and real people that will continue to be affected by the outcome and the whole concept of reactive abuse, and what happens when you aren't the perfect survivor. You're not the perfect victim. You're not fitting into what people think a victim should look like. So I don't know. I just think about it a lot, and I think about the creators that continue to have a platform after getting on here and making fun of the abuse that she endured, the celebrities that participated in that, and it just makes me sick to my stomach. Regardless of what you think happened, there's nothing about her testimony that should have been funny to you. There's nothing about it that it shouldn't have been a funny moment for people. It shouldn't have been comedic value. There shouldn't have been any comedic value, whether you believe the story or not. Someone talking about being raped, whether you believe it or not, should never have been funny. And I think about people like Tila Dunn and Lance Bass and Brody Wellmaker, and I'm literally looking at a list. Christina Kirkman, Courtney Lee Hall or whatever, Millie McClay, Annabelle Gesson, Anna Stiles, Paige Alice, Jess Valortiz, Tori Herman, Celeste Rose, Nameless James, Manon Matthews, all these different people that were on here making fun of her and making fun of the situation. If you believed, whichever person that you believed, none of it should have been funny to you. And I think that's what people fail to understand. Even regardless of what you believed, nothing about the trial should have been funny to you. It never should have become TikTok sounds and anything, because regardless, it is disrespectful to survivors everywhere. It's disrespectful to whoever. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful. And people didn't think about the effect that it would have on just your normal everyday people that had to see what people were saying, and also knowing that they also weren't perfect victims. They also fought back. They also started to return the treatment that they were receiving, and knowing how people would view them if they came forward with their stories. I know that thousands and thousands and probably millions of people were like, okay, well, I shouldn't come forward with my story because I also fought back. And people are also not going to believe me. And that's the precedent that was set. And I don't know, just thinking about it makes me so angry and so sad. And it's just that the effects of that will continue to be felt for so long. And it just makes me sick. It makes me sick that people were able to profit from that trauma and everything that happened. And yeah, I don't know. It makes me sick. I keep seeing this video of Amber Heard with her baby like off camera in the background and like talking to her, and it's like the sweetest interaction. And then when you go to the comments, they're really sweet and they're really supportive. And it's just always going to make me angry that when she needed it the most, people were making fun of her and making it into a trend on TikTok and just found it so fucking funny when it simply wasn't. And it was really disgusting regardless of what you believe. But I hope she's doing better now, and I'm glad that people have woke the fuck up and realized what the situation actually was.
Here are some things that genuinely shocked me when I joined the online book space. Like, I could not believe my eyes and my ears. I love this community, down, but some conversations are treacherous. Number one, Ice Planet Barbarians. I feel like I don't even need to expand on this. I was in a bookstore with my friend and I pointed out Ice Planet Barbarians, and I was like, I've heard about this. Like, what's this about? She had read a couple of the books. She explained it to me. What? My brain could not compute. And before y'all tell me, oh, you must have not been in the fan fiction, you must have not been on AO3 Wattpad. I wasn't on that part. Not yucking anybody's yum. I was genuinely just shocked. Like, you can't act like you would not be taken aback being introduced to that story. Number two, y'all are studying while you're reading. I have an example here. The Will of the Many by James Islington. I haven't read this yet, right? This book is about 600 to 700 pages. The perfect example of epic fantasy that I know that when I open it, the world building is gonna have me out with a paper and a pen. This specifically goes for epic fantasy because I was not aware as a community that we were getting in our books and we were studying like we were trying to get a degree. You get what I'm saying? All of the fantasy books that I had read in my life prior to joining Book Talk were not that deep. Like, I'm telling you, I could understand the world building in like 2.5 seconds. So I was very shook when I was seeing what kind of studious behavior was happening. Number three, how everything is a trope in romance books. Everything is a trope. He looked at me trope. He said he loved me trope. The wind was blowing at 125 miles per hour on a Tuesday when he gave me a hug for the first time trope. Came up to my front door instead of honking when he was coming to pick me up trope. I was shocked. I love a good trope. I love a one bed, enemies to lovers, but some things, baby, they're not tropes. They're not. It was just an incident. Number four, the whole audiobooks are not reading discourse. It makes no sense to me because people are arguing that audiobooks aren't reading, right? And so some people are saying you're listening to the book instead of reading the book. I don't understand why it matters. Either listening to it or you're reading it. Who cares? If you took a test on what you were learning in the book, you would probably still know the answers. So it's a lot of this discourse for no reason. Y'all like to fight. You just like to fight. Audiobooks are not only fun and cute, they're also accessible. So if you're actually saying that you don't think people are actually consuming the information when they're listening to audiobooks, cut it. Number five. Criticism, apparently, like criticism of how a book is written, criticism of how good or bad the book is off limits on here sometimes. You can't really open your mouth to say that you thought that something could be done better. We need to fix this because suddenly it's an attack on character when somebody says they don't like your favorite book. No, because we wouldn't do that if we were sat in class and we were having a discussion, would we? We would say, okay, that's your opinion, I have mine. But I need you folks who can't take criticism on your favorite books, step aside. The adults are having a conversation here, like. In conclusion, I love the online book space, but some things do make me giggle and gaggle. So let me make myself clear here, okay? I do believe that reading and listening are two objectively different experiences. However, I think that when you're discussing reading a book or an article or anything of that nature, reading becomes an umbrella term. I think that when we get caught up in the definitions for something like this, although definitions do matter, context also matters. So, for example, if you go up to somebody and you say, did you read this book? It's super good. And they say yes. Do you expect them to make the distinction that they listen to it instead of reading it if they listen to the audiobook? I would assume that most people would probably say no. Like, they would probably just say listening in that case constitutes as reading because the thing we're discussing here is a book. Yes, language matters, definitions do matter, but I think in situations like this, we cannot ignore the fact that when it comes to language, we use some terms to mean something else, colloquially. In this comment section, a lot of people are like, we're not the ones telling you that audiobooks are not valid. They're valid, they're just not reading. I'm just like, what's the purpose of making that distinction? Because I don't think you'd make that distinction in real life. Like, if you were having a conversation with somebody and they were like, I read the book, would you be like, nah, you didn't read it, you listened to it? I don't think you would now, you know? So I just feel like we need to be honest about the types of arguments we'd make in real life versus the kinds of arguments we just make on the internet. So because I like to torture myself, I thought it would be fun to show you guys every single book I have on my physical TBR. I also think it's important that we foster a community built on honesty here, okay? We're gonna go shelf by shelf, because if I had my entire stack in my lap right now, it would go to the moon and it would cut off the circulation in my thighs. So let's get into it. First off, we have A Fire Endless by Rebecca Ross. Lady Macbeth, I read A Study in Drowning. I love that. Chop Chop Honey. Oh God. Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. Now I have a mass market paperback that belongs to my father. He got this in like the 80s and the font is so small I would probably go blind from trying to read this. Crime and Punishment, also by Dostoevsky. This is thick. Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. Also have not read If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Like, girl. Octavia E. Butler's Fledgling. We love Parable of the Sower, and I read Kindred a couple years ago. I love that. Die Hot with a Vengeance. Essays on Vanity by Sable Young. Changing All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adejabrenya. I'm supposed to buddy read this with my friend. It's been sitting on her library hold since 1977. Girl Who Was on Fire. It's a collection of essays by other YA authors about the Hunger Games universe. For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. On to the next shelf. In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. I read 2 out of the 3 books by her I have on my shelf. Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. I'm so disappointed I haven't read this yet because Halloween's tomorrow and I'm not gonna get to it by then. Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. Belladonna by Adeline Grace. Somebody told me that this was a gothic YA fantasy. The cover's not looking too gothic. Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. Really short, standalone fantasy that's set in Regency, England. Evie Wood's The Story Collector. This disheartens me. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. It truly disheartens me. A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I also bought The Near Witch a few months ago. And then Emily Wilde's The Encyclopedia of Fairies. I've heard to some that this is a little bit overwritten. I guess I'll be the judge of that. On to shelf 3. One Day by David Nichols. I got this because I love the show. It did make me cry though. Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin. It does sound like it's right up my alley. Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I've had this on my shelf for like a year. Startup Wife by Tamima Anam. Don't know why I bought this. I have no clue. Did I even buy this or was this given to me? Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. This truly is shocking to me considering I have loved 2 out of the 3 books I've read by her. Emma by Jane Austen. Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. Stacey Abrams While Justice Sleeps. On to shelf 4. Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Why is the sticker still on there? Bound by Sarah Ella Rifi. Lore of the Wilds by Annalisa Brana. Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed. Another Ava Reed. Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Taylor. Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. The Will of the Many by James Islington. I know. This is on my 10 before the end. The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I know I'm going to listen to the audiobook while I read the physical because I've heard that the audiobook is read by Donna Tartt. Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. A novel love story by Ashley Poston. The 7 Year Slip was Chef's Kiss to me. Hopefully this is as well, even though I've heard some mixed things, I'm not gonna lie. On to shelf 5, The Last Shelf. I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. Octavia E. Butler's Clay's Ark. Misery by Stephen King. Banyan Moon by Tao Tai. Elizabeth Acevedo's Family Lore. B.K. Borison's Mixed Signals. The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. Pride and Prejudice in Space by Alexis Lampley. This came out this month, so I'm super excited to read this arc. To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods by Molly X. Chang. This is a Illumicrate. The last 3 books are Illumicrate. Of Jade and Dragons by Amber Chen. Lastly, Goddess of the River by Vaishnavi Patel. I don't know why I decided to do this while I was wearing a sweater. I'm sweating profusely. Here are 5 of my comfort films. Now, for some of these, y'all are gonna be like, why are these comfort films for you? Are you actually insane? Sometimes it's just the nostalgia. Number 1, we have The Martian. I remember the first time I watched this movie, it really was my Interstellar. For all the Interstellar lovers out there, I get it. I love that film, but this did it for me. I love space. Matt Damon is an incredible actor. We cannot deny. I always said if I was smart enough, if I knew physics well enough, I would have been working for NASA. So number 2, I can't help it. Don't Look Up. I don't really know how this became one of my comfort films. I think it may be something to do with the fact that this was able to terrify me, make me laugh, and make me cry all at the same time. The way they were able to capture the terror behind climate change using something as ridiculous as a comet hitting the Earth. Jennifer Lawrence, Leonardo DiCaprio, Meryl Streep, this film was star-studded. There's gonna be some range here, so I need you guys to bear with me. First Hunger Games movie. This is purely nostalgia. This is one of the most devastating stories. However, I was 12 when this movie came out. Ever since then, the Hunger Games trilogy, the books, and the films have held such a special place in my heart that the first film brings me comfort. The things that I would do to go back in time and rewatch this film for the first time, I would do criminal things. And yes, the second film is technically better from like a cinematography standpoint. I don't care. Number 4, we have The First Time. This is just a perfect coming of age, awkward, aesthetic movie. I've watched this way too many times, like more than I could count. This movie's what made me fall in love with Dylan O'Brien. I didn't even watch Teen Wolf. This is what did it for me with him. And then lastly, we have The Princess Diaries. Both 1 and 2, but for now we're gonna use 1 as a placeholder. When I watched this movie, I'm immediately zapped back in time to my childhood, to the joy that I felt when I realized I could discover I'm a princess at any point in time. Other people wanted to be Disney princesses. I wanted to be Mia. I still want to be Mia. I have so many comfort films that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. Those are some ones that really hit the spot for me.
Oh my god, y'all ruined Demure. Y'all ruined Brat Summer. They're so annoying now. Why do trends come and go so quickly? No. I'm going to tell y'all exactly who is ruining these trends in the exact moment that a trend goes to the trend graveyard just to get shitted on by everyone on TikTok who was originally championing them. And that is when corporate America gets a hold of a Gen Z TikTok trend and uses that to try to sell us their products because they think we're sheep. But we're not. Like, fuck the corporatocracy, bro. Like, I was on my For You page earlier today, and I was done. When I saw an Amazon ad that was trying to use Brat Summer to sell me batteries, being like, oh my god, Brat Summer, like Charlie XCX, buy these batteries. Like, I'm sorry. Do you think I'm just gonna buy bright green batteries because it's Brat Summer? Like, who do you think I am? Anyways, okay, the reason Demure was in and out within -2 business days is because it was a corporate-friendly trend. The moment a trend is corporate-friendly, run. Like, that shit will not last. I'm sorry. Like,
you see, until the day we have a casting director unafraid to cast a book-accurate version of Carrie White, then I fear Carrie will never reach its true potential as a horror story. Because what makes Carrie horrifying is the fact that you know Carrie White. And you might be inclined to say, no, I don't. But there's a person that popped into your head right now when I just said that. And whoever that person's face is, that's your Carrie. A person so ostracized their public humiliation is a bonding activity. You may not have been your Carrie's tormentor, but you observed her suffering all the same. You may have pitied her in silence, but never extended a word of support out loud. Your crime is complicity, and complicity is a crime we're all guilty of, which is why horror that centers around it is so effective. But in order for this sort of horror to be able to hone in its message in the most damning manner possible, the audience needs to be able to recognize themselves as the villains. Which is why it's so important for the characters they're empathizing with to have the faces of the people they subject to similar abuse. But Carrie takes things one step further, and that Carrie's big scares are the fact that 1, you know Carrie White in real life, and that 2, you know that if your Carrie's pain manifested in the real world and were directed towards you, you would not be able to withstand it. You would be destroyed by the suffering you subjected her to for the sake of prioritizing your own comfort, and when you were suffering, the world would extend to you the same sympathy it did to her. None. Carrie White would be a lol cow. If Carrie White were a real person, she would in fact be a lol cow. And in fact, you could pose a convincing argument that she met the pre-internet definition of a lol cow. And in this essay, I will. In all seriousness, this is why I find it so irritating whenever people criticize the prank that's pulled on Carrie as being unrealistic on account of its outlandish cruelty, because you know what else is outlandishly cruel? Platforming a developmentally disabled person for the purpose of publicly tearing them down on a scale inconceivable to the human mind. What else is outlandishly cruel is goading a person like that into a fake relationship because the punchline to the person that's orchestrating it is the idea they could be loved. People act outlandishly cruel towards people they perceive to be subhuman, which is why it's so important to me that Carrie be cast book accurately. Because appearance heavily alters the way that quite literally every action is perceived. It's oftentimes the difference between a person being perceived as somebody adrift, mysterious, and quirky, and a person being perceived as creepy and skulking and potentially dangerous. And just to be totally frank with my non-book readers who are likely wondering at this point, there's nothing that outlandish about book Carrie's appearance. But it's beyond Carrie not perfectly matching a beauty standard, it's Carrie not meeting a general appearance standard. It's her appearance causing her to be perceived by people as repulsive. She's the type of weird people are nauseated by. The kind of weird people don't even want to be in proximity to, because proximity jeopardizes their own social standing. And that's a hideous emotion the majority of us will be inclined to deny that we feel, but it's very important that you acknowledge that you felt it regardless. Doesn't make it right, but denying it does not and will not remove the impulse. Because although both Carrie actresses did a phenomenal job, here's my issue. If you took a look at just this image and had no idea the movie was Carrie, you'd assume this was just a girl getting crowned prom queen. It dampens the cruelty and realism of what she is subjected to. And to add to my Carrie White would be a lol cow thesis, the most common counter-argument I've seen is that, well, Carrie White is an innocent 16-year-old girl, and lol cows are, generally speaking, people that have done terrible things. And to that I raise the following. Carrie White is raised in a religious fundamentalist household. Do you genuinely believe that if she were a real person, her personal beliefs would be palatable to you specifically? The day that we accept the reality that abuse does not and never will yield people we perceive to be socially palatable is the day that I believe society will actually have a shot at healing. And these aren't condemnations of Carrie, but they're meant to emphasize the following. 1. Your black and white dichotomy of what constitutes a good and bad person is profoundly unhelpful and unproductive. And number 2. Can we collectively relinquish the delusion the way that lol cows are treated has anything whatsoever to do with the things they've done over the way they look, over the fact they don't think conventionally? To be totally realistic, because the fear of social ostracization and the fear of being outcast is a near universal one, a significant amount of people will cope by subjecting people they believe deserve that position. If you spend your entire life rotting in the stocks, that means that I have the ability to watch safely from the crowd is the type of logic we're usually working with. This is the reason why that whenever girls that are subjected to the type of abuse Carrie is show any sort of improvement, physical, mental, social, their abuse traditionally worsens, because to the terrible sick minds of the people that victimize them, their ascension means another person's condemnation. To the type of abusers that torment Carrie, this isn't a matter of encouraging improvement even in their own twisted manner. It's about securing and enforcing what they believe to be their rightful place, having access to somebody that's so what they believe to be beneath them that it bolsters their own ego. And like the lol cow milkers of modern times, they too will firmly adhere to the belief they've done nothing wrong. They'll comb through every sentence, every single interaction they've had with the target, every aspect of their history they can grasp to justify why they do what they do, and will inevitably wind up finding something. Sound familiar? Let's talk a bit about the real Carrie Whites, the two real-life girls Stephen King knew that inspired the character. The pseudonyms King assigns the two are Sandra Irving and Tina White, and between the two, I do believe that Carrie is more heavily inspired by Tina, simply due to the fact they share the same fictional last name. But nonetheless, here's what he writes about her. Tina went to Durham Elementary School with me. There is a goat in every class, the kid who always winds up without a chair in musical chairs, the one who winds up wearing the kick me heart sign, the one who stands at the end of the pecking order. This was Tina. Not because she was stupid, she wasn't, or because her family was peculiar, it was, but because she wore the same clothes to school every day. After Christmas one year, Tina came in wearing an entirely new outfit. I can't remember that one, only how happy she was to be wearing it. I think she might have even been wearing nylons, and what I can clearly remember is how her hopeful vivacity changed, first into surprise, then into anger, and then finally into dull acceptance as the insults and the teasing and the sarcastic comments rained down on her. Instead of abating, the kids' rejection of Tina became even fiercer. Sandra Irving, on the other hand, was simply raised in a deeply religious family, and the anecdote Stephen King includes about her involves him being fascinated by the crucifix her family has suspended on their ceiling. But when it comes to the two, he emphasizes the fact that neither made it to adulthood. In fact, neither made it to high school. Sandra passes away from a seizure and Tina commits suicide. Carrie's always been among Stephen King's most deeply sad works to me because of how rooted it feels in reality, and the fact that it literally is only amplifies that. But the bit on both that breaks my heart is at the end, in which he writes, sometimes, quite often in fact, I wish Tina and Sandy were alive to read Carrie. or their daughters.
Who should be cast as Carrie for the new Mike Flanagan adaptation of it? Because I have so many thoughts about this. I've seen so many people recommending Sadie Sink, Hunter Schafer for the role, and as much as I love those two actresses and I think they're very, very talented, I do not think that they are right for the role in this scenario, because I am on everyone else's side when they say that they want a book accurate Carrie. And I think it's hard because everyone recommending those actresses are also thinking of Sissy Spacek's performance in Carrie, which obviously is iconic. We can acknowledge that she did an excellent performance while also recognizing that she was not the right actress for the role. Like, come on guys, if you've read the book, you know that the reason that they use pig's blood on her at prom is because she is plus size, because she is unattractive. I feel like for so long Hollywood has been stuck in the, like, we're gonna take this really conventionally attractive, really well-known actress and we're gonna just put glasses on her and make her hair really frizzy to make her unattractive, and then we're gonna give her that transformation by the end of the movie where we straighten her hair and take off her glasses and suddenly she's like this beautiful swan. No shade to Princess Diaries in the slightest, because I do love that movie, but that is just the general Hollywood, like, we're gonna make someone ugly by doing these sorts of things to them and then we're gonna reverse it at some point in the movie so the audience can see how pretty they are. I don't want that. That doesn't make sense for Carrie. Like, in my dream world, if I got to play casting director here, I would absolutely love to see somebody who is brand new to acting, like a nobody, a complete unknown cast for this role, simply because I think we've again done like the Princess Diaries thing so many times of taking this really pretty A-list actress and then uglifying her just because that's how Hollywood tends to work. But also, if we look back at Haunting of Hill House, that was Victoria Pedretti's first acting job, and we all know how incredible she was as Nell. There's so many incredible talents out there that just haven't had the chance to book a job yet because Hollywood is so about who you know and not what you know. I just think it would be such an amazing opportunity for somebody who has not had the chance to break into Hollywood to be able to break in with such an iconic role and do it really well. If we're choosing something that's already like established in Hollywood though, I've seen a few people bring up Shannon Purser, who played Barb in Stranger Things, which I also think would be like a great casting choice. For other casting though, I do want to talk about this. Samantha Sloyan, I feel like was born to play Margaret, like Carrie's mom. And you know, I know she's kind of already played that kind of religious nut role with Midnight Mass as Bev, which just makes me think she's even more perfect to play Margaret, but at the same time I can understand if she doesn't want to do like same role in a different font. Just like that casting would be so perfect. She would be so terrifying as Margaret. I said I could also definitely see Carla Gugino playing Margaret well, and I really would love to have Carla and Kate back in this adaptation. I've seen a lot of people proposing that Kate should be the gym teacher to Jardin or Gardner if you're following from the musical, which I think she would be a great fit, and I could also definitely see Carla in that role. Anyways, I would love to see that trio come back in some capacity for this in different adult roles, and I would love, I don't even know if it's possible, I think a lot of the Midnight Club kids have kind of aged out of the teenager roles at this point. However, I would love to see the Hill House kids, like the young cast from Hill House, come back. None of them for Carrie, obviously. I stand by what I said about wanting a book accurate Carrie who's an unknown actress. But for like Sue, Chris, the other side teen characters, I would love for them to come back, or at least like one or two of them to come back, because I think that would be one, just such a fun nod to the past. So like they're the right age, I feel like it would fit well. I'm just so excited about this. Like I said in my last video, I have loved Carrie since I was 13 years old. It's my favorite book for a reason, and I'm so excited to have it in Mike Flanagan's hands. I feel like there's really nobody else that could handle an adaptation, especially something that's been adapted over and over and over again at this point, specifically because Hill House was such a departure from the original book while still being the story at its heart. Like, obviously Hill House wasn't an accurate adaptation, but I will say I think it was an excellent adaptation because of the way it managed to capture the essence of like Shirley Jackson's story and what it meant at its heart. I'm really excited to see what he does with Carrie, specifically because he said when it comes to adaptations like this that have already been done once, he doesn't want to just like reinvent the wheel again. He wants to do something different. He wants to break the mold in some way. How he ended up with Hill House being as different from the book as it was, because there was already a movie version of The Haunting of Hill House that he felt was really accurate and excellent. So I do really feel like Carrie is just in such good hands with him as an adaptation, and as an adaptation that's been done a million times. And I think a lot of people do agree that the original version with Sissy Spacek is kind of iconic. But it'll be interesting to see what he ends up changing, what ends up getting adapted, what setting changes to. Is it going to be modernized? How is it going to be set? I don't know. I'm so excited. If you've made it this far, tell me who you would cast as Carrie. I'm so curious.